Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a closer look at a recent episode from that radio comedy show, Past Week, Next Week.
Right. And, they're pretty upfront about it. It's mostly goofiness, lighthearted fun, not exactly aiming for deep insights.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But we know you're listening because you want to get the key info quickly and really understand what's going on. So that's our plan. Pull out the important bits, maybe some surprising moments from their chat.
Exactly. And they cover a lot of ground in this one personal stuff the hosts are going through, bits about their local area, and, well, their particular brand of political commentary.
So our mission today really is to kind of unpack what the hosts, Chris and Paul, actually shared in this specific episode, their key events, their perspectives.
Let's dive in. Starting with Chris, he had some pretty big personal news.
Yeah, he shared that he'd recently been laid off. Company restructuring, you know the drill. He sounded pretty candid about it and said he sucks, obviously.
But he also mentioned being grateful for the time he had there. It's that complex feeling, isn't it?
Totally. Knowing it's business, but it still hits you personally, that whole uncertainty.
And what's interesting, I think, is how he reacted. He decided pretty much immediately to take a solo trip.
Right, to the Great Smoky Mountains. He mentioned getting an Airbnb near a stream, doing some meditation, hiking.
Which is, a very proactive way to handle that kind of transition, deliberately making space to process it all.
Yeah, like hitting pause to reset.
Exactly. And then there was the LinkedIn aspect. He posted about looking for a new job.
And apparently got this huge, really touching wave of support from people.
Which really speaks to the power of your network, doesn't it? Sometimes you don't realize how much support is there until you reach out.
It's a good reminder for sure. And it sounds like that support really mattered.
Absolutely. It reinforces that idea that even when you're facing something tough individually, that sense of community, even a professional one, can make a real difference.
He also talked a lot about reconnecting with people that week, like actual face-to-face stuff.
Yeah, he mentioned lunch with some high school friends at Vietnam Cafe, said the pho was amazing.
Nice. And breakfast with his daughter, Molly.
Yeah.
That sounded like quite the spread.
Didn't it? Scrambled eggs with cheese, bacon.
Oh,
And pancakes cooked in the bacon grease.
wow. Now that's breakfast. Yeah. And they took a walk, shared a blunt, apparently, just like quality time.
It really highlights how those everyday moments, those connections can be grounding, especially when bigger things feel uncertain. Sharing food, just hanging out.
He also had lunch with another group, Dave, Velvy, Paul, and Boogie. Seems like he was making a real effort to be with his friends.
It does, leaning on that social support system. Those casual meals can be really important anchors.
And then there was that surprise encounter.
Yeah.
Someone connected to the Uptown Theater.
Oh, right, Carmen. She apparently saw Chris while he was waiting for his wife, Jane, and she just raved about his daughter, Molly.
Yeah, said Molly was super professional doing concert photography there. What a nice thing to hear, especially then.
For sure. A little boost, a reminder of good things happening elsewhere in life and pride in his daughter's work.
And then Saturday was just normal stuff, groceries, prepping dinner.
Life keeps moving, doesn't it? That routine can actually be pretty stabilizing when other things are up in the air.
Okay, let's shift over to Paul's updates. He kicked off by saying he missed Chris while he was gone.
Which was nice. But then almost immediately, he started casting doubt on Boogie's reason for missing shows before that.
Right. Boogie had apparently said he was working. Paul sounded less than convinced.
Yeah, there was definite skepticism there. It's part of their dynamic, that kind of ribbing.
Turns out the work was actually prepping because his kids were throwing him a surprise 60th birthday weekend.
So a much better reason to be busy. He mentioned the kids and their partners came in. They went bowling.
Sounds like a great celebration, family milestones,
Definitely. And he mentioned his son, Jack Rack, landing a job, too.
Oh, yeah, at a Ford dealership. As a porter.
Yeah.
Said he was loving driving all the different cars.
Which is great. Seeing your kids find something they enjoy, get started. Paul sounded really grateful about his kids doing well.
He also ran through some TV and movies he'd watched. Elevation, Daredevil, Handmaid's Tale, Last of Us.
And he gave a strong recommendation for one called Sinners. Said it was really good.
Might have to check that out. Then, the big reveal. His bathroom renovation was finally done.
Yes. And he had a funny suspicion that his visitor, Max, might have been the first one to christen the new toilet.
The trials and tribulations of homeownership, always something.
And then, this was unexpected, he introduced a new segment, sort of a co-host, featuring a skeleton.
Named Bones, apparently his daughter's idea. That definitely falls under their goofiness and fun banner.
Absolutely. It's quirky, adds to the show's unique flavor for their audience.
Paul also had a really busy stretch since their last show. A lot going on.
He did. Attended a gathering for his late Aunt Patty, saw friends Cher and Tate, who he mentioned flies planes.
Right. Dealt with some stuff at his credit union, United Consumer Credit Union. They had a system upgrade, hosted a seminar on home ownership.
And he took an Indian cooking class. That sounded fascinating.
Yeah, learned to make a potato and beans dish, some kind of fried rice things, naan.
And he learned about the difference between, like, authentic regional Indian food and what he called Tex-Mex Indian food. That's an interesting cultural insight.
It really is. How food travels and changes. He also went to Sunday school, said he enjoyed the discussion leader, Trent.
Met the pastor, took his stepfather to a doctor's appointment.
Attended a THA Chamber of Commerce thing, and also a funeral for someone named Thomas Herrick. Just a very full plate.
It really paints a picture of someone deeply involved in family, community, personal interests, juggling a lot, like most people.
Okay, let's get into the political commentary section. They always have a unique take here.
They certainly do. They started with a story about Democrats making fun of Republican efforts to rename the Gulf of Mexico.
Right, and specifically Representative Jared Huffman's sarcastic proposal to just rename the entire planet Trump to be more efficient about glorifying him.
And here's the interesting local tie-in. Huffman apparently has roots in Independence, Missouri, where the show is based.
Wow, I didn't know that. So a direct, unexpected connection from national politics right back to their town.
Exactly. Shows how interconnected things can be, even seemingly distant political squabbles.
They also touched on that whole recurring debate about President Trump's height and weight following a recent medical exam report.
Comparing the newly listed stats to previous ones and all the social media chatter around it.
Including that comparison to the Eagles receiver, A.J. Brown.
Yeah, that one was making rounds. It just shows how even, seemingly minor details about public figures become fodder for public discussion and humor online.
Then they played this satirical ad, Trump Zimpic.
Yes, presented as a miracle weight loss drug where the solution is basically sending Trump money and wearing a red hat.
Pure satire, obviously, just highlighting the perceived absurdity around some of his supporters' actions or claims.
It's a classic use of humor as political critique exaggeration to make a point.
Their regular segment, Promises Made, Promises Kept, focused on the stock market's reaction to Trump announcing tariffs, then pausing them. They called it Liberation Day.
And they included a quote from James Carville, who was pretty critical of Trump supporters being surprised by those kinds of market-moving actions.
Right. It gives you a little window into how markets react to political news and the commentary around those reactions.
Then they tried the Slate News quiz. Apparently, just accessing it was a challenge.
Huh? Yeah, sounds about right sometimes. But they did pretty well. Got 4 out of 5.
Let's see. The questions were about a Supreme Court justice rebuking Trump's impeachment demands they missed that one.
Okay. What else?
A university rejecting administration demands Harvard. They got that. Pop star on a Blue Origin flight.
Katy Perry.
Correct. Retrial for sex crimes. Harvey Weinstein. Correct. And a college football trophy fumble.
J.D. Vance, right? Got that one too.
Yeah.
So, not bad. It's kind of a lighthearted way they touch on some major news headlines from the week.
They also featured a political ad, this one from the Progress Action Fund. It was pretty provocative.
Depicting a Republican congressman basically servicing a sugar daddy type figure in exchange for fundraising and tax cuts.
Yeah, it definitely elicited a reaction. Shows the kind of strong imagery used in political ads sometimes to make a point about influence.
And finally, they wrapped up with their headlines and predictions bit. Always some funny punchlines there. Let's see. Kimar Abrego Garcia still jailed in El Salvador despite court orders. A mass shooting at Florida State. GOP response.
Trump admin gutting the CFPB, announcing Maggie payday loans. Trump not liking Jerome Powell.
That weird viral hand-eating challenge in China that went wrong. Oh, and a town painting wavy lines on the road to slow drivers down.
Right. It's just this rapid-fire, often absurd take on a whole range of news items, using humor to process the news cycle, basically.
So looking ahead to their next show, Paul said he hopes the Texter makes a return.
And Chris is hosting a big Easter dinner, which is also serving as a send-off for Tate.
Yeah, before Tate leaves for Air Force basic training, Paul mentioned giving Tate's mom some unsolicited advice and apparently got a touching reply.
They also reflected on attending a service for Elliot Threat's late wife, Catherine, and having a really meaningful chat with Elliot afterward.
Sounds like some heavy but important moments there. Chris is still on the job hunt, mentioned a potential meeting with someone named Colin Ridge.
Boogie apparently just has a normal work week lined up. Paul's got a dermatologist appointment.
Always fun. And some chamber events for the credit union and after-hours thing, and a member appreciation event.
So, more community involvement. Chris wrapped it up, thanking everyone, but also venting a bit of frustration about current politics.
Yeah, you could hear that. And they closed out with the song The Last Song by Edward Bear. Paul shared a funny childhood story about mishearing the title and radio signals.
A very personal anecdote to end on. So, when we step back from all this,
Yeah.
what are the key things for you, the listener, to take away?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? How this show, which they frame as just messing around, actually gives you this real slice of life. You see them dealing with big personal things like job loss.
Right, alongside celebrating family milestones, navigating local community stuff, and reacting to national news and politics, all through their specific comedic filter.
Exactly. And even if they don't intend it to be deep, you get these little aha moments, like that local link to Representative Huffman or the way the satire really makes you think about the underlying issue.
Precisely. So while you're being entertained, you're also getting these glimpses into, well, resilience, the importance of connection, and different ways people process what's happening in the world.
So maybe for you listening, it's worth thinking about how these stories, the personal struggles, the community connections, the funny takes on serious news, resonate with your own life. Maybe even check out the original episode if you're curious.
Which leads to a final thought, perhaps. Thinking about this blend of the very personal and the very public, the serious and the silly. How effective is humor, really, both for them and maybe for us, as a tool to process and engage with, well, everything, individual experiences and the wider world?